I literally had a filmmaker give me a Blu-ray on the red carpet.
Yeah.
Couldn't get it tested. Then I had another filmmaker, and we've stopped this practice now. Another filmmaker 2 years later, bring a laptop. They're like, can I just stream it from a laptop? I'm like, oh my Lord.
Probably because they're working on the edit late, right? And
Right.
the copy you have is now what they consider outdated.
Correct. So by hook or crook, we passed it into the projector and streamed it from this individual's laptop. And we're like, never again. So those are things that are causing us problems in a well-oiled machine otherwise. So communicate is a huge thing. Help the festival and know that there's individuals working there. It's not their fault. Sometimes technical things happen. So give grace. Grace is everything. Just, we'll do our best, as we expect from you as well, that you'll do your best.
Hi, I'm Matt Osterman, and welcome to Propellant Minnesota, where we talk to creatives, creators, and entrepreneurs making a difference in the state. I've directed 4 feature films, had a hand in a few others, and am currently running 2 different companies, so I know a thing or two about the ups and downs and highs and lows of making something from nothing. Today's guest knows a lot about creating something from scratch. I'm talking with Jatin Setia, Executive Director of the Twin Cities Film Festival. Now in their 14th year, Jatin, along with local favorite Bill Cooper, saw the need for a new festival, and they certainly took the bull by the horns and created something sustainable and meaningful. Please enjoy my conversation with Jatin Setia.
We have known each other for a very long time. It
Right.
doesn't seem like it.
Can you, do you kind of remember our origin story, so to speak?
Well, it has to be the very first year of the festival is kind of when we had our first professional relationship start. But I think I'd known you about a year into it as well. I want to say Bill Cooper is the one who kind of introduced us. And again, I was kind of new to the industry as well at the time. I was a non-union actor doing some behind the scenes stuff with this idea of the festival. And when I talked to Bill, Bill was like, well, there's a guy. We should just meet with Matt. You should just know him. He'll be your guide to like filmmakers here in the Twin Cities. I'm not sure if we actually like went out to grab a coffee or anything like that. I think my first clear memory is red carpet opening night, Ghost in the Machine, sell out of the first ever festival, the whole thing.
Are there any like pivotal moments for, the fest or your journey within it?
It's a marathon, right? At the end of the day, for me, I wanted to build an organization that supported artists first and foremost, but then also gave the community a professional experience at the same time. There's plenty of festivals out there that only focus on the artists, which is great. There's only festivals that are just on parties and just on the exhibition and just on like the outward looking, but internally they're not. They're a mess. So there's only a few festivals across the world that do both of them really well. So I wanted to take from those and try to do my best. There's been plenty of watershed moments. The first year is always a wonderful experience. To have the first sellout of a Minnesota film for the first ever festival. A few years later, we had John Hawkes stop by. That was incredible. Then we had Leah Thompson stop by with an opening night film. We've had Steve Zahn attend. So all of these are benchmarks. And all of these are, yes, we're worth it. Yes, we're doing something. Yes, we are not just patting ourselves in the back. The industry overall thinks we're doing a really good job.
Did success feel inevitable, or were you like, are we going to be able to pull this off again year after year?
Internally, we knew that we had the right team in place to continue executing at a higher level each year moving forward. The only gap there was, will the industry support us, and will the business community, because we're a nonprofit, from a corporation side, corporate side, and also from a individual donation side, because we're a nonprofit, will that support be there? We started the festival at right out of the recession, the 2008. This 2010 was our very first year. And a lot of my supporters back then who are still wonderful supporters now were like, really, you want to do this right out of the recession? And I'm like, well, if I can do it in the worst of time and pull it off, imagine what I can do in the best of time. And we've certainly seen the economy grow, and we've had dips and stuff.
I mean, you look at a lot of the big corporations that are around to this day, they were all started during recession. So recessions are a great time to build and start.
I think so. I think it grabs people's attention. With every single year, there's something new that is happening in the economy, in the world, even during COVID years. Like we pivoted and we built our own streaming platform. I'm a hustler. I went to an agency. I'm like, none of your people are working. They're all on PPP. Do you want to help a nonprofit? Do you want to build a Netflix out of nothing? Like, so I gave them a challenge and they built it for me. But it's about showing value. So I, at the end of the day, show value to my consumers, obviously giving them amazing content, to my filmmakers, give them an amazing platform, to my sponsors to give them the eyes that they want from a brand perspective, and to my donors from a community standpoint, from a altruistic standpoint of supporting the visual media.
I would imagine the first handful of years were probably driven by passion and just straight up elbow grease and volunteering yourself, right? But at a certain point, you started to create revenue and you got to hire staff. Was that a significant turning point once you're able to kind of level up like that? Or has it been like a frog in boiling water type of thing?
Man, I remember writing my first ever check of $500 to somebody who worked for us 40 hours a week for 8 months straight. And their whole check was $500.
Wow.
And that, when I handed that individual their check, they weren't expecting. Like they're all volunteers. For the first 6 years, nobody in my organization got paid, including myself. I had 4 part-time jobs. But when I wrote that check, I thought this was a turning point. Like, I can't turn back now. I can't reduce that $500 to $400 next year. It needs to continue to go up. And then for the first year that I wrote that check, there were 3 other individuals that got it. So 4 people total got it. And now we have 25 contractors and 3 full-time employees. Still not, equity is still a thing, especially in the arts. But that was the moment for me where I felt like I need to work harder so that they can continue to get these checks from me, and it's all on me. So I take that pressure every year on me to make sure my staff, my amazing volunteers who get nothing, continue to come back every year and show support, and they always have.
Yeah, well, I mean, speaking of passion, I mean, you guys are making a difference in the world, especially to a lot of smaller or independent filmmakers who, the festival circuit is often the only distribution they get, right? Or at the very least, the only time they get to sit in a crowd of strangers, right? And feel that movie for the first time. So I would imagine that is kind of a buoying feeling for you and the staff, knowing that, for a couple weeks a year, we get to, do a good thing.
You're spot on, right? It's nothing makes us happier than to see a filmmaker, even during that tech check, they get excited. You can just see the anxiousness, the nervousness. They've just left their peers, parents, sisters, brothers, partners on the red carpet to come and do the tech check. And that's when they get to go like, oh man, I'm so excited. Like, those moments are everything. Those are the buoying things that keeps us afloat all year long. Knowing that we've had hundreds of conversations with filmmakers leading into the decisions. Some don't make it, right, based on the availability we have on the screen. And some just want advice and like, hey, I know we didn't make it. Like, what can you do? We always give feedback to our filmmakers. It's those little things that matter. They can solicit feedback from us all the time. And then when they're actually there, especially around strangers, right? They're friends and family. That's biased-ish. But with strangers, with other filmmakers who are watching their film, they're having a conversation with them afterwards about X, Y, and Z. Those are the moments that drive us to continue doing this year in, year out. And, obviously it's expanded from a 4-day festival to a 10-day festival, 30 films last year, first year to about 140 films this year. Those conversations are happening all the time. And even, we're couple weeks away from the festival now, and we're still getting filmmakers that are saying, hey, I'm flying in. Hey, I'm flying in. Oh, by the way, my mom's cousin in Duluth is going to represent the film because I can't. You know, those are the things. We give them red carpet. Like, that's everything to me.
Yeah, I mean, filmmaking, even though it often takes a bunch of people to make, right? And it's a chaotic group effort. It's also a lonely endeavor, right? Especially writing and editing. And oftentimes festivals are really the only time you get to be out amongst fans, your peers, strangers, right? And have those conversations and get that validation, or talk shop, at which normally you couldn't do, because if you're a filmmaker from a small market, right, you don't have a ton of opportunity to do that. In Minnesota, we're okay. We're better off, and you guys hold a ton of events, and there's other orgs here. So there's opportunity for that. But to have that kind of a few of those pinnacle moments, right, that you can look forward to every year, I do, right, of knowing you're going to go talk to filmmakers, right, or people that love the art, right, and have that level of conversation is always something to really, look forward to.
Yeah. For us, back in the day, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, pre-streaming platforms, festivals were discovery. You went to festivals to discover new content. And now content is at your fingertips. So now festivals are even more important because now we're the curators. So how many times have you strolled through or scrolled through Amazon, Netflix, Hulu, whatever you have, for a half hour not finding the thing that you want to watch?
Every day.
Right. And that's often than not is what's happening. So the way we're pivoting on why the festivals are even more important, besides watching undiscovered talent, right, from small towns, or hell, from LA for that matter, is the discovering the new content, but the curation as well, and the conversations that those choices that we're making to put on the big screens are going to have an impact on either those individuals who are making the content, their lives, or the audiences that have an affinity for that particular piece that they're going to see, and connecting with those filmmakers for action moving forward, for a documentary, for example. So for us, a film festival journey is unique for every filmmaker. You're so right in the fact that it's film is a collective art form. 10 people, 100 people, 10,000 people come together to make this one thing. But once you're in post and once you're just in it, it's such a lonely thing, because you have no idea, based on your initial vision to based on what was shot to based on what is in front of you, is this a direction you intended, or is this something that you discovered along the way? That you're like, you know what, my initial was great and that components of that is still in here, but this is a story that I actually wanted to tell. Has that happened with you, where you have actually started a project, started writing, and then by the end of the project, like on the screen, you were like, 30% is there, but I'm glad for the new 70%, or something like that?
Every single film.
Yeah.
And almost by design, right? If you go in, even if you just go into production saying, okay, here's a script, we're literally going to get everything on the page and nothing else, you're going to end up with a substandard film, right? It's not a play, right? Plays are a little bit different.
Right.
You want to bring your collaborators together and make it better. And if you're not empowering your collaborators to help make it better or to make discoveries, with my actors, I like to empower them. Like, hey, first take, let's do it by the book. Second take, we can get a little looser, then fourth, fifth, sixth, like let's freelance, right? Yeah. And let's find something. And you can often find those little fun moments. I was just talking to Mike B. Nelson about this. Like, that's the whole thing, creating an environment to find those happy magic moments, right? Those little movie moments that don't exist on the page, that you can't recreate in the editing room, right? That you have to get right then, if you don't, it's kind of gone forever. So yeah, I hope the movie is different by the time I get to it. Hopefully better, right?
Right.
It can go the other way too, but if you're empowering your collaborators, and even in post, when you're looking at the footage you have versus the footage you wanted, you're going to have to make decisions based on that.
Or the circumstances didn't allow you to Like maybe you were running out of time. Maybe it was a sunset shot and you literally have 15 minutes to do this. There's only so much you can control when you're out in the elements. And every single day, every single minute that the camera is rolling is money being spent.
Yeah. I mean, my first movie, there is a scene, obviously, it's Ghost from the Machine. There's a scene that we were getting at dusk by a lake, and we didn't quite get it. And then I'm looking behind me, and park police start rolling up. We did not have the right to be there to shoot. And I could hear the park police talking to my
Were they
producer.
on horses? Like,
I think they had an SUV or something, but like, yeah. Yeah. They weren't Mounties.
Yeah.
And I hear them in the background, and I just told my actors, like, keep going, let's get it. And we ended up using the last take where I had to like dub out the sound of the police officers talking behind us, telling us we had to leave. And it worked. It was great. It was a beautiful shot, and I have that moment, kind of etched in my memory.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the exciting part about filming too, right? You never know what's going to happen. Sometimes good, sometimes bad, but you kind of have to just go with the flow. Because again, if you're like trying to strangle this thing, you're going to burn out, and you're not going to.
That's why pre-production is so important. Is you got the major components taken care of. You got your people there. You got the addresses and where to be. You got your locations. You got your wardrobe. You got everything set. At the end of the day, you know that 30% of that is going to be chaos once you're actually on it. There's only so much you can control. You're just putting out fires. That's where a good producer is important. A line producer. I mean, like, I would say every single individual that is on that set is a key component to the entire film. Whether, again, this is where the strikes that are happening with the WGA and SAG and IATSE, like, those are key. If they are not part of the film, there's no films without these people.
Crucial.
Absolutely essential. They're an essential component of filmmaking. So when we get filmmakers who say, yes, the director will be there, one of the producers will be there, and oh, by the way, can we have our grip come up? He's from your state, or our makeup artist would love to say a few words. Yes. Do you want to have them on the red carpet too? Because they all deserve it. So for us, whether you're a short filmmaker or a feature filmmaker, we saw that with VidCon, last year, with like so many amazing individuals came out and supported from Minnesota, outside of Minnesota. That red carpet was buzzing, and you can't help smile. You can't help take that, even if you're another filmmaker that's having another screening, grab that energy. That energy is infectious.
Yeah, I remember on that red carpet. So, we had an incredible art department on VidCon. Elizabeth Richardson was running the show there and had a great crew with her. And it's a thankless job, right? That's one of the hardest jobs on a film, right? Because you're often, trying to get ahead of production, but you have to stay back to make sure they have what they need. So a lot of sleepless nights, and to see them get to kind of celebrate, at the screening, makes it all worth it for me, because I get my energy from other people, right? And seeing that, you can finish something and honor somebody's contribution,
It's everything. As a human being, the more we can celebrate each other and give each other a platform, that's everything. That, to me, if you can do that every single day, or try to aspire to, you've won humanity. You've won that award, that recognition that nobody's going to give you, right? It's much more of a self-healing thing, as if you can lift others.
Yeah, in the video game of life, that's right. That's how you win.
Nobody's was it NPG, non what is that?
NPC, non-playable character.
Non-playable character.
Part of the reason I'm starting this whole podcast series is Minnesotans don't do a good job of celebrating their own.
No.
And oftentimes they just don't know about it. But even when they do, the little bit of I don't know if it's a Scandinavian thing or what.
People talk about back in the day, in the 90s, where all the films that were being shot here, Grumpy Old Men, Jingle All the Way, Mighty Ducks. I feel like people now don't celebrate all the more recent films that were made here, and I'm not sure why that is. I'm not sure if the political climate and or the there's just so much right now on everybody's minds.
I think we're almost humble to a fault where
I
we
agree.
feel like we don't deserve success, right? And it can be like one of us, like it could be a person I don't even know, but they're one of us. Therefore, they're successful, but do they really deserve it? And we're certainly not going to applaud it because we're too humble. We're too good for that. It's a weird.
I'll take blame on that. I grew up in Mississippi and I moved to Minnesota and certainly fell into that amazing black hole of like, be humble, right? Which I love. That's just who I am. But people are like, I didn't know about the festival. Like, this is cool. I'm like, yeah, it's okay. And they're like, no. And these are from filmmakers coming in from outside. They're like, this is ridiculous. This is so great.
Yeah.
You should be proud. I'm like, I am proud. So don't take my silence as not being proud, but take my silence as growing up in an ecosystem that doesn't shun you, but everybody is the same, which is like, we support each other. We don't need pats on our backs. But at some point, if you want to make noise, if you want to actually be seen, somebody has to go look at what I'm doing.
Yep.
Because ideally that gives confidence to the other individuals in your field to go also look at what I'm doing. And then organizations to be like, oh, by the way, we did this. Yes. If that collective voice rises, people from outside the state already know how amazingly hard we work here. If you go to LA, New York, the hardest people working on sets are the Midwestern folks. They all,
Every time.
everybody that I go, like anybody from Minnesota, Wisconsin, Iowa, I'll hire in a heartbeat because they'll show up. They'll actually do the work. And that's our upbringing here, which I'm so proud of.
When I shot 400 Days, a feature in LA, the director and the producers are responsible for, hiring department heads, but all the crew members below that, we don't really have a say in, but I show up on set and meet all the crew members, and a good chunk of them were from Minnesota, just randomly, and Wisconsin and Iowa, right, and the Dakotas.
Right.
It was funny to me, like it came all the way here to shoot a movie and everyone's from back there, and it was amazing. And I think a lot of those folks that moved away for opportunity are looking for reasons to come back.
Right.
We just have to find a way to give it to them. And I think,
let's you and I work on that. We'll work on that. We'll just change the industry.
Yeah. All right. Tomorrow.
Sure.
Get on that. Yeah.
After the festival.
I have a theory, and I know it's shared by others, but because we're more digitally native every day, and there's an inauthenticity that we're seeing with a lot of this digital stuff, especially with AI coming, that in-person events are going to become, more and more crucial and popular. And we're seeing that with like Taylor and Beyonce and Barbenheimer, right?
Yep. Giving
people an excuse to get away from the screen. Do you feel that happening in your world, or are you finding ways to take advantage of that?
Absolutely. During the festival, obviously, we'll get about 10,000 folks that will step to the doors. But during the year, we're doing screenings and events just to get people out. We have nothing to do with this, but we hold a comedy night in our festival office, right? It's just community thing. We hold a block party at the West End, and we're seeing more and more physical attendance. And that's obviously coming out of COVID, people wanting to get, meet again and talk again. That's been 2 or 3 years. But at the same time, people are tired of just being in front of their screens, multiple screens at any given time. Any excuse to get out, they're going to take advantage of. But I think now there's more options for in-person things, because I think that trend, every industry is noticing it. Every industry talks about it's about the experience as opposed to the content. So you can bring somebody out to a movie theater, but what's the experience that's built into that besides just watching the movie? You can go buy a concert ticket, you can go to, Taylor Swift or wherever, but what's that experience that the newcomers in that particular genre hasn't experienced yet? Like, going to a concert is everything minus the actual concert. Half the time, those artists don't even sound like what they sound like in your phones, right? But being there with the crowd, oh my God, it's an outdoor stadium and it's raining, and now I'm part of this collective experience. or I just spent $70 on this thing that I will never use. How do you continue to build that experience around the art form that you want to showcase? So for us, we've absolutely noticed that, and we continue to build experiences around the festival as well, through us working with our sponsors and partners. And this year, from an accessibility standpoint, we're making all of our weekday matinee films free for the public.
Amazing.
Just, again, at the end of the day, let's get more people out, right? I got my costs covered by one of my awesome sponsors, and like, you do this, your commercial will be in front of every single matinee, and they're like in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
But how do you find that experience beyond that? And our family-friendly films, we're going to be giving away free Johnny Pops as people leave, right? So it's all about the little things that add to the experience, and then those individuals who attend will go, oh my goodness, I'm going to tell a friend, and it's word of mouth.
And I think it's important to make the distinction too that when people go to Twin Cities Film Fest, and frankly a lot of good film festivals, not replacing one screen for another, right?
Right.
You're going there for this cohesive experience where there's stuff happening before, there's stuff happening kind of hopefully not during, but there's a Q&A often, right?
Right.
It's conversation in the lobby. You guys have like a party, I think
every single night.
Every night, right? Where the filmmakers or film lovers or sponsors or whomever will go.
Absolutely.
And just
connect with each other. It's that experience that you talked about, right? It's just that in person, how do I connect with my tribe? And your tribe could be people you don't even know. That's why a film for me is a community experience. Going to a theater is a community experience, is because I'm sitting next to strangers, yet they're not strangers. They're all there to see the same thing that I'm there to see. We're all going to go on this emotional ride together, right? And at the end of it, I can nod to a person, they can nod back, or in silence move out of the theater, but know that this collective energy I was part of. And if I see these people outside, I can then have a go like, oh, I think I saw you at that movie at the festival. Did you see anything else?
Mm-hmm.
Right? It starts to build those bonds of communication and discourse and that's not even going to the festival. That's going to any movie. So I recommend everybody just go to a movie in theater, whether it's matinee or your Barbenheimer or whatever, but also keep an eye on the people that are around you, not from a safety standpoint, but they're all there to experience the same thing you are, which is incredible.
There's a thing that if you can pay attention and think about that communal experience while you're there, maybe not during the movie, but just
Correct.
before, there's a palpable energy that happens, right? And I think it harkens back to like the days we were, in caves, like telling stories around a campfire, right? There is a thing where it's like the Matrix. We all just kind of plug into it and we experience movies differently when we're in a group versus, in our home theater, which is like a great experience technically,
right?
But you're missing that human thing that we've had for millennia, right? Having done, a bunch of festivals and circuits with my movies, like I'll notice a thing too. Bring it back to my first movie. A supernatural thriller, had some scary parts, but it was also funny. There's humor built into it. And I would go to a festival screening and I found, and I probably went to 10 of them. Without a doubt, if somebody in the audience laughed at that first joke, right, it gave permission to the rest of the audience to understand, like, oh, we're going to have a good time. This is funny. We're allowed to laugh.
Right.
If they missed that first joke, it was kind of flat. They still enjoyed the movie for the other thing, but the humor didn't land as well. So we have this weird vestigial thing within us where we give each other permission to kind of enjoy something or enjoy something together. And we miss that when we're watching stuff at home.
The best things are when somebody, so say you're obviously there to watch a comedy, right? And people are ready for it and primed for it. The first laughter, just like not manufactured laughter, but like first laughter gives everybody the permission to just go. And then the laughter in the theater, or I grew up in the South, right? So there's a lot of, back in the day in the 90s in Mississippi, go to the theater, there are people are talking to the movie. I don't mind it as long as it's not overtly during the whole movie, but like yeah, why are you in that? Why are you in that house right now? Right? Like
Right.
the obvious things, but that gives you permission to be okay with your thoughts and be okay with any vocalization you might want to express. All appropriate, hopefully. But that's community. And then at the end of the day, you walk out, you're like, man, that was really funny what you said, or like that comment, or your laughter was more funnier than the actual movie, right? Like that's human connection that we miss otherwise.
Mm-hmm. When you edit something and you think you have it perfect, right? Blah, blah, blah. Then you show it to people that haven't seen it. They don't even have to say anything. You're watching it with them. You're like, oh, that's way too slow. Or, oh, okay, that worked. It's only when you bring in somebody else or multiple people that you can see things for how they really are. Because again, we're, jacking into the, collective consciousness. It's, I don't mean to be woo-woo, but there is a thing that happens for sure.
And you're watching them more than you're watching your own project because you've seen that thing hundreds of times, modified it, tweaked it until it's ready-ish. It's never really ready. It's like, you're never going to be done finessing it.
So talking about the kind of the filmmakers and the indie filmmakers, are there any like tips or tricks or best practices that they can utilize to best navigate kind of the festival world? And obviously it's not like making a movie, right? But anything that you've seen that leads to more predictable results and or success?
So defining success let's just say your success is getting into as many festivals as possible. Communication is key. So when you're submitting a film, know that, first of all, submit a film to a festival that is credible, that they're actually going to watch your movie as opposed to they're going to get 600 submissions and they already have pre-selected their films.
How do you know a film festival is credible?
So you can go to their Film Freeway page and you can look at the comments section on the filmmakers and the diversity in the
Film
creators.
Freeway is like an online submission platform that pretty much every festival subscribes to, and you submit your materials, right? Your film and your information via Film Freeway,
right?
And the festival then gives you feedback on that platform.
Correct. So it's essentially a portal where all filmmakers have a account, and all the festivals have an account, and the festivals have their deadlines and their guidelines, and filmmakers have their shorts or features, and the filmmakers get to select which film festival they want to submit their films to based on all the other components of their film and their restrictions on their guidelines on the festival side. And then the festival ideally is curating from all the submissions and then watching the movies and grading them internally, and then at the deadline sending the decisions of like, hey, you made it, or hey, unfortunately we weren't able to show your movie. There's a component in your submission that you can write a little letter, and I highly recommend a person take that 10 minutes and have that letter be personal enough to the decision makers on why they should select your film. If there's any connection to the region or the state that you're submitting this particular festival happens in Nevada, and for some reason you're like, oh my goodness, my DP is from Nevada, put that in there.
Because you might be looking for a tiebreaker, right? You have two movies that are equally good, but you have room for one. What's that tiebreaker? And
right.
It may be in that
and
order.
Filmmaker presence is a tiebreaker. So if you can be there, or you can even in your letter say, I'm happy, I've loved the Twin Cities and I've actually visited in the past, I would love to come back. Something else that helps is we have 140 films. There's only so much marketing power we have to promote every single film. So give us grace. Give the festivals grace in knowing that they can only do so much. So offer another unique identifier and again, something that makes you more likely to be loved by the festival, whether you've been accepted or not, is to help to put out there, like, I'm going to help promote the film, right? Like, you're not going to be able to sell out the house for me, but like, as long as you're able to offer, like, we'll do anything that we possibly can on social media. I actually know a group of people, because let's just say it's a documentary about cancer. I'll actually know a representative at Susan G. Komen in Minnesota that I can have them push out. That gives us so much, like, oh, thank God. Like, we'll actually accepted film. Like, we want to have as many people watch it, and they're actually in it with us. They're not just
if they're responsible for bringing 50 people, right? That makes your job so much
again,
easier.
from a festival side, we're renting theaters, so it's not like I own my own theaters and everything is gravy. Like, I need butts and seats that pay me $12 so that I can pay the theater back, right? So ticket sales is actually not a big revenue generator for any major festival. Honestly, their majority of the money comes from donations and corporate sponsorships. Ticket sales literally help us offset the theater costs. So the more filmmakers are in it with the journey with us and not go, hey, hands off, we'll still show your amazing film, like if you've been accepted. Another way to do it, another way to, again, continue to get supported by the community for filmmakers from a festival side is to partake in whatever you can throughout the year. So if they have a small membership program, it's $100 a year. I mean, it helps to know that our creators are also helping us. Now, that doesn't mean quid pro quo where like you're a member and I'm going to show your movie. Nope, those things are completely different. I have a different team that does this and a different team. But it shows that we're doing something for our community and they're helping us.
Yeah. Well, return. And then, I mean, on the human level, there's a chance for more of a personal connection, right? And that always helps. It doesn't guarantee anything.
Correct.
But it helps. You know,
the more we see you in person, the more we get to fall in love with you, your art, your passion, the more at the end of the day, you'll be top of mind for us to continue to connect the dots within the industry, or ask you to be on a panel, or ask you to do something during the time when you're shooting a film, you're not exhibitioning, you're in that production phase. Maybe we'll ask you to come and participate in something, or talk to our mentors. You know, go like, hey, can you do a Zoom call with these 4 amazing seniors from these 4 different colleges in November? And I know you're in post-production right now. Like, those opportunities would continue to get opened as long as you're supporting each other, right? It's not always the one-way street. It's like continue to support each other and those things will just arise.
Yeah. Yeah. Anything that you've seen a filmmaker kind of do wrong, right? Maybe they're a little over the top or they ask for too much. Any particular anonymous stories you can think of?
Sure. Our job is to curate the best films, show it in person, and get the audiences there. Now, a lot of different business models from a festival, a lot of business model from a distribution side exist, where a film could have an online streaming day in, day out, right? Like where it's got the theatrical, they can run the festival, but they have to be online on a given platform. That doesn't matter how big or small it is, and that's released prior. Do me a favor and don't start promoting the fact that it's free or like go download it for $1.99 or go on a TV interview and talk about that as opposed to the festival screening of in person. So I had a filmmaker who did that. Went on a blitz prior to and had 3 people show up at a screening, and then he was asking us what happened, and I'm like, were you not there when you were blasting out the fact that people can watch this at home for $1?
Yeah, I mean, there's an exclusivity thing that happens with festivals, right?
Right.
And it's not, there's no purity test. Your movie can play other festivals.
Of course.
It could be out in some capacity.
Of course.
But your job as a filmmaker, if you want to support the festival, is to get butts in seats.
Exactly.
Not work
counter. Well, not even that, right? Like for us, for me, I'm happy with the fact that we selected that film. It was a wonderful film. I was still selected, right? The question that came from the filmmaker was kind of like, no, focus on the 3 people that are here. And you know the reason why other people aren't here is because you were the one who blasted it out. And I was like, I wasn't even thinking. I'm like, that's okay. But hopefully for your next feature, just know that, right?
Yeah,
I should. He's like, yeah, okay, that makes sense. And I'm like, so just focus on these 3 people. Just so it wasn't. So don't shoot yourself in the foot. Yeah. Essentially,
I should amend my statement saying it's not the filmmaker's job to get butts in seats.
Correct.
But it's the filmmaker's job not to be anti getting butts in seats.
And hold the integrity of the screening in place, right? Like when we offer you an opportunity to go on the red carpet, you don't have to. but it's not every festival offers that opportunity. If you've been to 10, maybe 2 out of 10 will go, you know, you actually get red carpet time.
Right.
Take advantage of it. Show up. If you don't show up, totally fine. But don't come later and go, hey, can I get in? Well, no, we have like 7 other films happening, and why don't you go enjoy your movie, and then we'll figure out another time for you to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And the other key important thing is there's people working on our side. There's human beings on our side. And we respect you as a creator, as an individual, respect us and our decisions, and communicate.
What have you found when you're looking for partners or sponsors or collaborations, right? Like what kind of advice or what has worked for you? Because you've been incredibly successful at finding companies that want to come in and partner and get their word out. Has there been any ingredient in the secret sauce?
Knowing your why is everything, because you're selling, right? I'm selling all day, every day to corporations, to individuals, to my ticket buyers, to my filmmakers. But I know what my why is. I know the why I exist and why I do what I do. For me, having that mental mindset, that positivity in me of like, look, if I go into a conversation and I don't get what I want from the get-go, which is like, if I'm going out there asking for money from this corporation and I'm not going to get it, it's okay. Breathe. There's other companies out there. That wasn't the only one. And now they know about your festival.
Don't burn that bridge, because
right, just
5 years from now.
Right. Now they don't. Now they know about it. Invite them. Right. If you've never been on a film set and you're trying to get an investor and you think they have money but they've never invested in film, have you ever invited them on set without any expectations like they're ever going to give you money, to be like, you know what? Let me show you how this art form is actually done. I'll invite you to one of my set. Like, come to a day. You can just be a fly on the wall. You can kind of see. I don't want anything from you. So giving your potential investors, sponsors, donors an opportunity to take a peek without obligation is huge. So most of my sponsors, 70% of my sponsors are returning sponsors every year. The other 30 is based on what's happening in the climate and the industry and their specific companies. But 90% of my sponsors I invited before they were sponsors to come to the festival. They were just there. Because for me, everybody at least likes movies. You don't have to love them. Not you're taking you to an auteur film, avant-garde film, right? Like, I'm not taking my first ever experience with you. It's not Terrence Malick, right? I'm showing you some amazing films that you'll have really great time with. There's something for everybody. So you show the diversity in that. And from an artist standpoint, getting investors, getting sponsors, getting organizations to financially support you is everything. And don't burn any bridges. Offer more than what you initially offered. Continue to offer along the way without asking for more money, because you want them as future investors in you as well. And be honest and be truthful on the expectation. So if you, based on your history and your work, know that you'll get 30% of their money back, just be straight with them and go, hey, we'll get you 30% of your money back, guaranteed within X amount of time frame. And with the pedigree of the films that we've had in the past now and the relationships that I built in the future for distribution, there's no reason the other remaining 70 you wouldn't have in 3 years.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Like, just being as honest as you possibly can, because what you want them to do is make a sound decision for their investment, but at the same time, not be jaded by a horrible experience that they never support any independent filmmaker ever again because of you. That is the worst. So
yeah, I think there's confidence in the slow game, right? Meaning,
yes.
Like, hey, we're here, we're doing a thing. You can choose to be part of it. You don't have to be.
Correct.
Right? But don't get desperate, right? Don't say, like, sign a dotted line now or this opportunity goes away forever, like everyone's human, right? And some people come to decisions slower than others. So
totally.
If you pretend like you belong, then you probably do belong, right?
Absolutely. And do your research, right? At the end of the day, some of my sponsors joined because they see other industry folks that are already our sponsors. And it takes them that time. Like, so who else is on that? Well, here's my sponsor list. I have 4 banks this year. And I literally tell them, like, it's not an exclusivity thing. If that bank cares about this particular component of a festival, that one cares about matinees, making it free. That one cares about their own internal constituents. So it's not an exclusive thing. For me, at least, for my business, is the more funding I can get, the more impact I can have.
But you found a lever to pull with each one of those banks, right?
Very specifically.
Yeah.
Right. Very specifically. So finding the very specific niche that these sponsors, these corporations are under, either internally they have a magnifying glass on in that particular thing, whether it's, LGBTQ care for their employees, or bigger, broader, like we want to just have our branding out there. Work within the confines of what they are working. So do your research on them first before approaching, and offer them 2 things. We can do a broad, or we could do a very specific, because I've actually been on your website and YouTube, and you guys have been really focused on this, and I'm not making anything up. The component of that exists now, part of our platform, and we'd love to have you do one movie or a series of movies, or be a bigger, broader sponsor. At the end of the day, corporations are all about retention of employees, good employees specifically. Because now there's plenty of job opportunities for anybody to just drop of a hat. It's no longer like, I'm going to work for this company for 30 years. That's 3 years is a long time for a company. So how do they keep them? So if you can add value to that, an experience that they would never get. So if part of your funding raise for your project is X% that it could be given by this company, and you could do a little product placement, or you can have a little bit of their cart. I mean, that's absolutely appropriate. But on top of that, like, identify an individual in their company that always wanted to be in movies. Give them a background spot to be like, pick a person, CEO, CFO, pick a person that you think would love to be in a movie. Oh, I think Jane would love it. How old is Jane? Jane's in her 60s. She got darker hair, lighter hair. You know what? We need somebody to sit at a coffee shop. Jane would be great. Just that.
Creatively thinking through how you can incorporate, a thing that...
Don't force it, right?
That gets them a win, right?
Yes.
How do you provide your partners with a win?
Right.
Right? If you can provide them with enough of a win, or enough wins, it becomes inevitable, right?
Absolutely. And again, for them, they can go back to their employee database or employees and go, look at what we did. And, oh my God, you guys were all going to go to the red carpet. Jane's actually going to be, on the, like, there's that sense of pride and sense of community that you're helping build for that organization and that company.
In the midst of this conversation, you've given a lot of people roses and kudos already, but is there anybody, any artist, any local person, any business or restaurant that you feel doesn't get enough attention, or that deserves a little bit more love that the rest of us probably should know about?
Yes. And I'm on the board of this organization, and I'm so proud to be part of it. But Black Business Enterprises is a nonprofit. They have helped, I want to say, over 20,000 small business owners, Black-owned business owners from across the country.
Incredible.
Start their business without the stressors that are LLCs and all that. So they do everything. So for me, Black Business Enterprises is a key organization and a group that exists in their home bases here. Their headquarters are here in Minneapolis, that are literally making amazing ripple effects across the country, and we need to celebrate them. So their ball is coming up on Sunday that I'll be attending, and the more I can tell people about Black Business Enterprises, the better. That community is just incredible. Their business owners, the passion behind small businesses. That's how I started, right? My nonprofit was a small business, from a brown guy to, random other white folks that I talked to. If I had more of a support system back then, it would have made it a little bit easier for me. I still would have done the same amount of work. I think it's the same journey I would have been on. But if anybody can go out there and help support the Black Business Enterprises and those entrepreneurs, raise the bar and start thinking about generational wealth is everything.
Yeah. I mean, the levers of power can be insidious, sometimes on purpose, sometimes just through sheer time and complication, right?
Correct.
So to have an organization that kind of shines a light on some of that and says, this is here for you.
Right.
You can do this, right? I'm sure it's inspired a lot of people to take that next step. And entrepreneurship is like the best way for anybody to grab control of their own fate, right? And that's amazing to hear. I've heard of them before, but I didn't know as much about it. But I'm gonna look into that a little bit further.
Yeah, they're great.
So tell us kind of about this year's festival, like when it's coming, what you're excited about, any, the place people should go to learn more.
So our festival is October 19th through the 28th at the Showplace Icon Theaters in St. Louis Park at the Shops at West End. This is our 14th year. We have 140 films that will be premiering, 90 in person, another 70 online, some overlap there. Our opening night film is The Holdovers with Paul Giamatti. We have some amazing studio films that will eventually make the Oscar run. So The Holdovers, Fingernails with Jesse Buckley.
Heard that's great.
It's really great.
Riz Ahmed, I think.
Riz Ahmed is in it, yep. All of Us Strangers with Paul Mescal and Andrew Scott and Claire Foy is ridiculous. American Fiction from Cord Jefferson. It won the best film at Toronto this year, which is a great indicator of it being a potential winner, right? Yeah. At the Oscars. And then our closing night film, which sold out, but we're looking at getting a second screening of it, is Downtown Owl, which was shot here a couple of years ago, partially in St. Paul with Lily Rabe, and who's a director. She's an actress. She acts in it as well, but Ed Harris and Vanessa Hudgens. Some really good Minnesota premieres, VHS, Mike P. Nelson's anthology.
Which was shot here. All local actors, I think, and crew.
So we're hoping we have 2 screenings of that. Some really great documentaries, Greener Pastures, Losing Grip, a narrative called Abroad, which was shot up north with Korean actors. That's going to have a really great premiere. We also have Terrence Howard, the Oscar nominee, attending our festival with an indie film, and the film team got a waiver from SAG and after for him to be here. So we're actually also going to do an in-person conversation with him, legacy of his work and independent films as well. So parties every single night, like you mentioned earlier. So our lounge is open from 6 p.m. to midnight every single night. We're holding a couple of metaverse events as well, holding some conversations in the. So literally something for everybody. Those 10 days are a marathon, and every day is a spark of something new. With the new films that we'll show, and the new filmmakers, and we're all on adrenaline at that point. And the day after the festival is when all the breakdown happens and the cleanup happens, and then I give my staff a couple of days off. I'm like, you guys deserve the 2 days of non-interrupted sleep, but let's get back to work again. So all information's on our website, twincitiesfilmfest.org. We are a nonprofit, so if you choose to attend a film, thank you. Spending your $12 with us. If you choose to become a member, thank you. Whether it's $100 or $250 a year with many perks. Or if you're just wanting to support a nonprofit with your hard-earned money, we'll take your donations as well. But at the end of the day, whether it's paid or not paid, and you're just hanging out in the lounge because there's no fees to attend the lounge, it's just 21 plus, I'd be excited to just see you and say hello.
Yeah, well, you do a great job with the festival. I've had a ton of fun over the years, and it's meant a lot to me personally. So keep doing the great work you've been doing, and onward.
I appreciate it. Thank you for the opportunity to talk here.
Yeah, thanks for being here.